It's been almost over a month since we had an Antec case, and what a return we have right here. Now, with the front grille and everything that you see, it kinda gets into the bracket of, let's call it a more serious case, in terms of design I would say, because even though I did love all the other Antec cases and the design and cooling and everything it had for the price, we have right here something quite interesting and more different approach when it comes to visual aspects. Now, right here, this is the ANTEC P20C, which has a quite nice opening on the front, comes with three 120mm fans, tempered glass on the side, and loads of other stuff. Before we continue on the case, I do have to mention we have two more products right here. The first one, which is Vortex 360 addressable RGB. This is AIO with addressable RGB fans, with fusion fans actually, that you could buy separately this time in 3-pack. That's really cool. And you already seen the review and you have it on my channel. I'll place it at the end when you finish watching this video, so you can check out the full review of this one, even though you'll get some details here in this video as well. And right here we have a new power supply, their new lineup, which is quite interesting because it's fully modular. This is the Antec's NeoECO Ne850GM. This is 80+ gold certified power supply, fully modular. Cables are outstanding when we're talking about, well, basically they're black, they're flexible, and they look quite nice. In terms of, you know, you can place them if you don't have an extenders like I do right here, and you can place them inside your build without even have to worry about something else. But to be honest, if you're into custom sleeved cables, of course you're going to go with it. But these are quite flexible and they're nicely reroutable on the 8-pin EPS, on the 24-pin, and eventually on the graphic card. But that's something else for you guys that are, let's say, going on a budget build in terms of not needing an actual 850, because we do have lower wattages, but you'll see that quite soon, next month. Now, this power supply is fully modular, 150 x 140 x 86 millimeters, so it fits in, well, all ATX cases, right? And even micro ATX, so you don't have to worry about power supply taking up too much space in your power supply shroud. Now, back to the main actor of today. We have a case that definitely doesn't resemble to any other Antec cases. First of all, because it has a nice, elegant front panel. And on top of that all, you have three 120mm fans, non-RGB, unfortunately no 120 at the back, even though you could place one, and the possibility for a 360, 240, 280 radiator on top, and the same configuration can go on the front. I'm not quite sure if you could squeeze a 420 at the front, but to be honest, it's a quite nice case when we're talking about cooling capabilities. Now on the side you have 5 rubber grommets, which give you a possibility to reroute the cables as you wish. And when we're talking about the power supply shroud, of course you have a possibility to place two 120mm fans to blow more air into the graphic card, giving it additional cooling, but also nice ventilation when it comes to the bottom going up here to the top. Holes on the power supply shroud are a bit different than other Antec cases, and we have 3 rubber grommets and 3 holes, 3 openings here near the motherboard. It would be much easier for them to place 2 larger ones instead of 3, but that's totally irrelevant in terms of, let's say, pros and cons, right? And you have one additional right here, which doesn't have a rubber grommet, and I do appreciate that, just in terms to squeeze in your PCIe cable for your graphic card. And as you can see, I did that, but it goes a bit on the side because actually you could place much longer card than the RTX 3070 Supreme X, and this gives you a possibility to have a really chunk of a card because you have loads of space here, even if you place a radiator on front. Now the Vortex 360 is placed on top, you have quite nice space, and you do have to place it a bit diagonally inside so it doesn't collide with the side parts. But honestly, it's just a couple of degrees to angle it and then just place it in. Tie up those 12 screws on top for a 360 radiator and you're good to go. Well, of course, you do have to place the block on your CPU. Now, as you can see, I also placed an additional fusion fan at the back just to have some sort of a identical design, and this is what I love about the Vortex 360 because it's using those fusion fans, and you can grab that as well additionally if you, for instance, want to go here on the front. Now let's get back to the case. Sorry, I totally went off the topic. The front panel is held by two pegs and a magnet, so you can just pull it out and you get access to a dust filter. When you get access to a dust filter, you can remove it quite easily with pressing the clip on top and you can clean it. That's it. Here beneath the power supply you also have another dust filter and a magnetic dust filter here on top. That's all when we're talking about those. At the back we have loads of space, of course, and the cool and interesting thing, you get two Velcro ties which really do help with the cable management. As you can see, two 2.5-inch brackets for your SSDs, and at the bottom in the power supply shroud you have possibility to place one 3.5-inch hard drive and one 2.5-inch SSD. The power supply actually has loads of space because the hard drive cage is a bit thicker than your standard hard drive, so it kind of gives you more room to reroute the cables. And you have an opening on the power supply shroud. If you decide to place a 360 or 280 radiator here on front, you don't have to worry about removing the hard drive cage or anything similar to that, because the hard drive cage is actually nicely distanced from the front, and this is quite nice. Now on the top we have a power on button, reset button, two indication lights, we have two 3.5mm jacks for your headset and for your microphone, two USB 3.0 and one USB Type-C. This is why I love Antec and how they constantly improve their cases. What I mentioned about the elegant design, well, basically has actually explained everything. When we were talking about past Antec cases, they were more with aggressive approach when we were talking about the front panels. You know, different meshed front panels. The interior is 90% the same, I would say, maybe even less. But the front panels were the face of each case when we're talking about Antec cases. And right here we get a case that kind of actually looks much more minimalistic and more elegant. And for you guys that are looking for something like that, this will be more attractive than the past cases. But the same configuration goes on the I/O ports on top. The same thing happens with a cutout here to actually access the screws for your GPU with a screwdriver without having the need to slide diagonally the screwdriver inside. You have loads of openings on the power supply shroud, on the side and on the top. And the cool thing, when you're placing a radiator that supports 120mm fan, you can actually go quite thick with the radiator because the radiator is placed so much on front that it doesn't hit the I/O cover of the motherboard. Of course, if you have a high profile RAMs, this will be a different story, but you can definitely go with a much thicker radiator that I would say 55 plus the fans, and that's outstanding. That's really outstanding. For the 280 you can't do that, and you can go with standard thickness because the 280 is after all a bit wider, so it could hit the I/O cover if you go with a thicker radiator. But there's just something that I know some of you guys that are enthusiasts would really love to hear these kind of details, and since I did review loads of cases, I could give you some of this in advance, so you don't have to think about, worry about that or anything similar to that. So the cables at the back, as already stated, what you have on the I/O panel on top, all the cables are the same, and you have power on, reset, LED and hard drive connections here for your front panel jack, and that's basically it. At the back, when you're placing a power supply shroud, you have additional bracket that you attach to your power supply shroud, and then you slide the power supply in, so you don't have to wiggle the power supply on the back side, trying to manage with the cables and the hard drive cage and trying to do what wonders basically to place the power supply in. This has a separated compartment, just push it in, that's all there is to it. Now, for this kind of case, which has a more serious, let's say serious and elegant approach, it doesn't have that much hard drive cages. For instance, it looks nice. It could be done as, I don't know, let's put it this way. It could be done as some sort of a server case, right? But unfortunately, because it doesn't have so much hard drives, because after all, if you're doing a server, you're going to do something. That's a topic for something else. But I would say that in terms of the elegance of the case and everything that you get, the only thing that is missing is another 120 non-RGB at the back. And that would be perfect combination. You don't have any fan controllers at the back or anything similar to that. And one thing that shocked me actually when I was unboxing the case, since you have three 120 PWM fans, and when I was unboxing everything, I didn't see a three-way splitter for PWM, which was at first disappointing, but then I just picked any splitter that I had randomly, and then I went building the PC. Of course, you do have to grab the screws to mount the motherboard inside and everything else. And in the accessory box, what do you know? You get a splitter for your PWM. So they covered everything. That's it. Guys, I think there's nothing left to say in terms of the case and everything except for the thermals, of course. So AIDA 64 Extreme Edition, you already know everything. CPU, FPU, cache and system memory on AMD Ryzen 5 5600G. We had 63 degrees Celsius and the RTX 3070 61. And the speed, we're going at 50%, so that's actually really nice when we take everything into consideration concerning the build, the design, the cooling and everything else. In other words, I'll place the links in the description so you can check out any other additional information that I might have skipped. So for the NeoECO Ne850GM 80 plus gold fully modular power supply, we have the ANTEC Vortex 360 addressable RGB AIO, and the star of the shows, well, basically today's video, is the ANTEC P20C, their new case that they just released. That's all for today. If you like the video, if you like the content, and if you like the build, of course, don't forget to subscribe, hit the like button, notification bell as well, so you don't miss future videos with Antec or anything else concerning computers, reviews, and benchmarks. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.